Hello and welcome. You're watching Stadia Rokks. If like us you love gaming, but life gets in the way, then Stadia Rokks is for you. Hello. Hello, Duncan. It's Duncan. That's right. And Rokk. Welcome to
that way.
I know, I get it wrong every time. He's that way.
Yeah, just a point that way.
I know. Now I've kicked the microphone. Let's do this profession. Let's start again. Good morning, everybody. Welcome on this sunny Sunday. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the first ever live edition of Stadia Rokks. And as you all know, my name is Rokk. We've just had this out, and it's Duncan, who's muted, so I'll speak on his behalf. Hello, everybody. This is, if you remember, back in the very early days of my channel, in fact, February of this year, my show was called Stadia Rokks. It was a recorded show, and it consisted of kind of magazine, if you like. It was latest news, Rokk Reviews, and stuff like that. But it was aimed at people that were new to Stadia. That were casual gamers, maybe busy lifestyles, work, family, education, all those things. But it was aimed exclusively at them. Now, the content that I've moved on to from there in all my other shows tends to be a little bit more advanced. It's kind of aimed at people that have a bit more of a background in Stadia and gaming and so on. So Duncan and I thought it would be a great idea to resurrect Stadia Rokks, because obviously we're seeing a huge amount of new people coming to the platform now, and they have questions. They want to know what it's about and what are the best games to play if you're a casual gamer and so on. So that's the premise, and that's where we are. We're going to be doing 1 hour every Sunday. This is obviously our pilot episode. It'll be a little bit ropey, as pilot episodes tend to be, but I'm just going to quickly pass you over to Duncan. I'm going to get used to doing that. To Duncan, to introduce himself and tell you a bit more about himself. Go for it, Duncan.
Hi, my name's Duncan.
Perfect. All right, I'll do it for you. So Duncan is the boffin. We're calling Professor Duncan.
Professor Duncan. No, we're not going to call Professor Duncan yet. I'm Duncan. I write and take part with Stadia Source, so we're getting that plug in now, so it's all over and done with. So we're going to concentrate on the show here. So I write about Stadia, we find out news and things, and I'm really excited about this because I think that we are missing some sort of low level sort of show for Stadia. So if you've got any questions, even if you feel that they're stupid questions, ask away, because this is what this show is going to be about. We're trying to bring it down and make everything nice and easy for people to get involved in Stadia and have fun on Stadia, because that's the most important thing to do.
It certainly is. So without further ado, because time is a ticking, you'll remember all the various things in the sections, and we brought them all back as best we can. So let's kick off with the latest news from Stadia. And there we are, latest news. So Duncan, we'll have a quick look at news, because being the pilot episode, we want to concentrate a bit more on what Stadia is all about, really, and get people involved in that more. But let's have a quick look at what's been happening this week. I think one of the big news items for this week was the exciting announcement of forthcoming Stadia Connect. Now, what is a Stadia Connect?
Stadia Connect is where Stadia are going to put on a show on YouTube just to highlight what games are going to come to Stadia in the coming months, and also what features which might be coming to Stadia during that time. So what games are going to be there, we do not have a clue, but that makes it exciting as well. So basically, it's a Connect is there for Stadia to inform everybody what is coming during the next couple of months. So this is why it's actually quite exciting, because we're going to get a big blast of news and games and everything. So the last Connect, we actually got a load of new game announcements from it. And what also happened during that, which is a bit unusual, we got a game added straight into the Pro subscription, but I think we're going to come into that later. So you can play straight away. These are also known as shadow drops, where games are made available straight away for people to play.
So it's fair to say that a Connect is kind of a big official show that Google Stadia announces their coming games and exciting new features and just kind of lifts us up and tells us where things are going in the coming months.
Exactly. This is why you may see a lot of people in the community getting really, really excited about this, because this is like, if you follow other platforms, it's like there's a Nintendo. Because of the Stadia wording, sometimes I get mixed up. It's like a Nintendo Direct. I was going to say Nintendo Connect because that's why the but it's like
very similar. It's got an act in it.
Exactly, that's what makes it so. You have to think when you're saying these things. So it's like a Nintendo Direct where you're going to get everything. It's basically following their format. Bang, here's a game. Bang, here's a game. Here's a wee talk. What's happening by the big wigs in Stadia.
Now, the reason I understand the reason that the community, we call kind of everyone that's involved and interested in Stadia, our kind of Stadia community, don't we? And my understanding that the reason they are excited is because Google Stadia since launch has just been a little bit quiet in terms of updating the community on what's coming up, and they kind of wait till the last minute, don't they? So to get this one big event where we're told a whole load of stuff about what's coming up is something that anyone who's invested in Stadia finds particularly exciting.
Yeah, exactly. Stadia at this moment in time, you don't. They leave things to the last minute, and you don't know what and when things are coming. But we have got some announcements which I think we're going to touch on in the news coming up, where they've actually told us game days and releases and prices and everything. So I think we're going to touch on that shortly anyway.
Excellent. Right, so we'll shuffle on from that one. Now, the next piece of news was Electronic Arts, EA, one of the biggest game publishers in the world. Anybody that's kind of into gaming at all has almost certainly heard of them, if not played one of their games. So we're talking things like FIFA, most popular game in the world, probably. Sims, very popular with my kids. Now, they had a reveal as well, similar to the one that we're looking forward to from Google. So they talk about, and they do this every year around this time, don't they? And they talk about what their big forthcoming reveal, all their kind of games and updates and stuff that they're looking to do for the coming year. Now, this one was quite an interesting one. Duncan, do you want to just fill in the folks on why that was?
Yeah, I'm just going to touch what you said before. Usually around this time, we have a conference called E3, and this is where all the big game publishers and platforms come together, and it's a week-long thing of news. Because of the current situation with COVID, everybody is spacing all their announcements out. So this conference was meant to be maybe a couple of weeks ago when E3 was meant to be happening. So this EA one was very, very interesting because there seems to be a complete change in direction for them as they are looking to showcase their wares on as many platforms as possible now. Also, the big thing is cross-platform multiplayer is what they're going to be making a big push into. So what that means is if you're playing on Stadia, touch wood, you will be able to then play against people on Xbox or PC or PlayStation or Switch. This is to keep the multiplayer numbers up, so you always have a chance to find a game somewhere.
And I think that's probably the biggest thing, isn't it, this time around for EA? They're sort of leading the charge in some ways, because the ability to play a game, if you're a PlayStation player or an Xbox or a PC or obviously a Stadia player, the options to play with your friends before now was only if they owned the game on the same platform. We've seen it happening and rolling out more and more, and even on some of the games that have recently come to Stadia, there's been that cross-platform functionality. And now we're seeing through EA kind of leading the march, they're looking to approach that across just about all of their games, aren't they? Which for a new platform like Stadia, which it's fair to say it's less than a year old, it's building up its user base. So when you do go to play a game where you'll be playing against another live player, as we call it, multiplayer, you sometimes struggle to find people on at the same time as you in your area. So now being able to fire up a game of, I don't know, FIFA, for argument's sake, Madden is another one that's big for EA. You're going to have the opportunity to maybe multiply that by some considerable number and play with people on other platforms. So that's got to be big news.
It is big news. And also, this was a fallout from an interview after the EA conference, is that they have came out and said they're trying to push to as many new platforms as possible. They mentioned the Switch, they mentioned the Epic Games Store, they mentioned Steam, but the number one thing they mentioned in their release afterwards was Stadia. So I think we can expect Stadia to get EA games coming forward. We already know if the EA games coming to Stadia, we don't know what time they're coming, but we do know that they're coming, and that is Jedi Fallen Order, which was released last year. So that's going to be the first game which comes from EA, which is a really good, fun game if you have not played it. And the other two are the big hitting games for EA, and they're going to appeal to everybody across the pond. You're going to have Madden for over in the States and some people over here, and FIFA for people over in the UK and
the
some
whole
people.
World.
Yeah.
It's kind of big football, isn't it? I mean, let's be honest.
It is. Football is really big. So we're going to get a couple of good games here, which are going to appeal to the masses, and which is a really good thing. And it's a really good get for Stadia.
Yeah.
We also, during this EA conference, we had like what's called the leak. Basically, before the conference, EA approaches a couple of a couple of journalists to say, this is what we're going to be talking about at our conference, just to give them like the heads up. During that, they mentioned the journalists that Apex Legends may be coming to Stadia. However, this was not mentioned during the EA conference, so there is a possibility that Apex Legends is coming to Stadia. This was quickly retracted by the Washington Post because it wasn't showing up. So this is what you may be saying in the community about Apex Legends. Is it coming or is it not coming? It is not officially coming as is yet. So keep your expectations low, but the signs.
No, Apex Legends, Duncan, if I'm right in excuse me, I'm right in saying if you have kids, then they're almost certainly playing Fortnite these days, and Apex is a kind of version of the Fortnite genre, isn't it? That sort of battle royale.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it is. It's a battle royale, so it's going to get interest a lot of the kids or younger members of your family. And they are a big thing. And the thing about that as well is they have came out already and said that it's going cross-platform multiplayer 100%. And they've mentioned the Switch is getting it in October time. The date has just slipped my mind, but I think it's October time. And that's going to be cross-platform between every single platform. So that means the player numbers are going to be big. So touch wood, if this comes to Stadia, it should have that as well.
Yeah, so it's fair to say, given that EA are rolling Apex out across just about every platform, and of course introducing that multi-platform goal again, that it's not beyond the wit of man to assume it will come to Stadia, even if right now nobody's officially announcing it.
Exactly. The thing about this, it looks like it's coming, but please do not think it is coming to Stadia. It is better to keep your expectations low. So if it does come, you're going to be happy. Do not read into this that it's 100% coming, because you may end up disappointed. But the signs are pointing towards that it is coming, if that makes any sort of sense.
And tying it back into our last news item, if they were to announce Apex was coming, it would almost certainly be at the forthcoming Stadia Connect that piece of information would be imparted.
Exactly. That's why it's really good to watch the Stadia Connect, because that's where all the games are going to get announced. So if you don't see any games announced at the moment, the chances are you may see some, not all the games you're wanting, some of the games may be at the Stadia Connect.
Great. Okay. Exciting. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of multiplayer, but as I've just said, kids are. My little nephew George, when I told him yesterday that Apex was coming to Switch, he almost did a flip in the garden. Social distancing, folks. It was my daughter's birthday. We were all set 15 feet apart. So moving on, there was another big game release this week, Duncan, for Stadia, which again got the community very excited, and that was Elder Scrolls Online.
Yep, Elder Scrolls Online came this week, and it is a pro game. And what means if you subscribe?
What does that mean?
Oh, I got a pro game. It means is if you subscribe to Stadia Pro, which is a completely voluntary, you do not have to subscribe to it if you're wanting to play in Stadia. They give you quote unquote free games each month. They're called Stadia Pro games, which are put into your library, which you can play. So that is what a pro game is. If you stop your subscription to Stadia Pro, you will lose access to these games. And for as long as you've got Stadia Pro, you have these games, even if they are rotated out of the Stadia Pro library.
But it's important to note that it doesn't preclude you from accessing the platform. So in a way, it's a little bit like you've got a PlayStation, which you've bought, and it's yours forever and a day. And you subscribe to PlayStation Plus, which gives you a couple of free games every month, which you pay for. Now, if you stop subscribing to PlayStation Plus, you've still got your PlayStation. You can still play the games that you have bought in the past, but you'll no longer have access to any of the content that you had when you subscribed to PlayStation Plus. That's a fairly good analogy.
Yeah, that's a perfect sort of analogy of it. It's if you got any of the other platforms, as soon as you stop subscribing, you get lose access, but as soon as you resubscribe, you've got them again.
Yeah. So the basic Stadia, Stadia as we call it, is absolutely free, and you can sign up whenever you want, and there's no limitation to how long you've got access to games that you have bought. Yep. Stadia Pro is the subscription aspect, which is completely optional and entirely down to yourself.
Exactly. So the way I know a lot of people have think Stadia is the Netflix of gaming, and there's a lot of confusion out there. A closer analogy would probably be Amazon Prime TV service, where you can access all the movies on it, and if you want one, you can buy one. But if you subscribe, you get a small selection of them. So it's similar. It's more similar to Amazon's model rather than Netflix. The Netflix model. So
okay, and I know we're going to come on to what Stadia is in a second, and I'm sorry, but I just thought as we're kind of mentioning these terms, it wouldn't hurt to just slip one in, as they say. Right, so let's get back to Elder Scrolls Online, which has made the happy cloud gamer even happier than normal, which I think isn't actually possible, but it did. Tell us a bit more. Why were the community so excited about this game coming?
Again, this is going to be one of the positives of Stadia as well. The Elder Scrolls Online is a massive multiplayer online game, and the download is actually quite big. So basically, this game has a big following in the PC world and the console world, and a lot of people are really excited because they've slipped off the wagon because they've went on to different things. But with Stadia, you can just pick it up and go and not have to worry about having it all downloaded. You can just start it up again. Because literally when this dropped, when this became available on Stadia, we were able to play in 60 seconds. You were able to go on and set it up. I think that you did a brilliant video on the day explaining the process and how to get set up. There were some issues, but there were some tiny issues, but I think more or less they're all ironed out now. But everybody if you get hooked into this game, you will get seriously hooked into this game. It is a never-ending game, and there is no end in sight. You can just quest forever, and a lot of friendships and everything have been formed because of it.
Is it a relatively easy game to get into, Duncan?
To be honest with you, I don't think it is. You will, it will take a wee bit of navigating and getting used to things, but after you get out, I think it takes a good couple of hours to get out from the tutorial sort of bit, sort of opens up and you sort of semi know what you're doing. So the first hour or two, maybe a little bit, I think there's a high learning curve on it. So
yeah.
So
maybe one to put aside for the weekend, late Friday, that kind of thing, where end of the week, you've got a few hours or a couple of hours or maybe an hour, and just trying to ease yourself into it. But over time, it's a rewarding game. It never stops providing content for you to play on.
Exactly. It's a game you can't just sit down for half an hour just to get past the first bit. I think it's a game you would need to maybe an hour, set yourself aside an hour or two just to get the fundamentals over and done with, and then you can jump into it.
But the big news is that this is it's a huge game for Stadia for a start. It's a very well known IP, as we call it, and it's also they've got a large expansion called Greymore, which again is now available on Stadia as well. So once you've kind of played the base Elder Scrolls Online, you can invest, and it's worth pointing out that Elder Scrolls Online is, at least in the basic form, is completely free for Stadia Pro subscribers. Is that correct?
Yes, it's completely free to join in and start it up. There is expansions. There's things called microtransactions where you can buy some currency to get new gear, new things. There's also the Elder Scrolls subscription service as well, which gets you even more stuff. But you do not need any of that to actually play the game. You can play the base game, and if you get hooked onto it, there's all that additional stuff you can actually go into. However, I think a lot of people are saying in our chat here as well that they think the Elder Scrolls does have a pretty high learning curve.
Yep.
But
no, I think that's fair. And to be honest, that's what I've struggled with. Me as our kind of casual gamer representative, somebody with a very butterfly-like attention span. If I can't understand and get into a game within half an hour, I tend to lose interest. And I think that's the one downside of ESO, of Elder Scrolls Online. But if you love this kind of genre, if you like the kind of Lord of the Rings type stories and characters and that kind of stuff, the Tolkien stuff, then this is a really good game. And it's fair to say that those that have invested time and effort absolutely adore this game, don't they?
Absolutely. You can see some of the stories out there. This game's about 6 years old now.
Right.
People have we're into over 1,000 hours into it. So if you work that out, people have invested a lot of time into this game. So if you get hooked, you really get hooked, and the claws are in you for a long, long time. And because
it's the McDonald's Happy Meal of gaming, is what you're essentially saying.
Exactly.
Not that McDonald's get you hooked on burgers or anything at a young age. I would never put that out there in the public realm.
Exactly.
Let's quickly move on to our final news story, and that is that this just been announced, in the last couple of days, is that a completely new game, and it's fair to say almost it doesn't quite fit in any box, is Crayta, Crayta, and that's coming on the 1st of July.
Yep, exactly. This is going to be another pro game, which means on the 1st of July, if you're a pro subscriber, you can play straight away. No downloads. This is another positive of Stadia. You just, as soon as it's available, which usually is on July 1st, it should be 8 a.m. UK time, which is 12 Pacific time. So that's about 3 a.m. Eastern time that's the normal time the pro games normally drop. I think this may be slightly different because it's slightly more high profile of a sort for Stadia.
Yeah.
But the game, we're going to put the game in quotation marks, is you get the opportunity to build your own games and participate in other people's games. So what that means is it's like Roblox and Minecraft. It's a mixture between them, sort of. I would say more Robloxy than Minecrafty, with a bit more detail, because if you're on the PC, you can actually go in and edit the code. So this game has opportunity to explode on the Stadia, and it looks like it's a pro. It is a pro game. So all people need free pro game. So the free in quotations, because you still have to pay your £9.90 or £9 a month for £10.
Yeah.
So the barrier for entry is pretty low, and
so essentially it's a library of games that other people have made within a game designing platform. So if you want to, you can build your own games, or more importantly, or as importantly, do that with other people. So there's a kind of collaboration aspect. So you and I, Duncan, could say we're going to make a game, and you could concentrate on the kind of mechanics of the game and how it works, and I could do all the little sort of stick men and clip art and stuff and do all the graphics, and then we could push that game out for the rest of the community to play if they so desired. And I think I'm right in saying that they're also looking at ways that they can reward you if you design and build a game that becomes quite popular. So there are going to be, I think, monthly cash prizes and rewards of quite substantial nature, in the thousands of pounds, if you push a game out there and suddenly you find that everybody's playing it and it's got quite a reputation. Is that right?
Yeah, the potential for creator is massive. One thing they are promoting at this moment in time is a Stadia only feature, which lies into what you were talking about. You can share your games. You will be able to send people a link for them to join you in your game to help you create it. They have also talked about on stream. I'm just trying to get this 100% guaranteed as well, that they'll be able to link to your games as well. They just you make a game, there'll be like a wee link, and you just push that out to your YouTube channel or your Twitter and say, look at this amazing game I've made, come and play it. This is going to go into the rewards as well. So I think one of the rewards is like the most popular game gets £1,000. So if your game's really, really popular, you have the chance to actually get a lot of money. And you will be able to eventually sell bits and bobs as well, but that's all further down the line. Creator on Stadia has the most potential to really explode and showcase a lot of the good stuff within Stadia.
Great. So I think I'm just looking at the time, we're 30 minutes in. We've done a fair old amount of news. So what we're going to do now, we're going to move on to the next section, which we call What's Up Rokk?
What's up, Rokk?
Don't worry, we're still here. I'll edit it next week. I know it's way too long at the end. We're sat here thinking, I wish it would hurry up. Duncan, what's up, Rokk?
What's up, Rokk, yourself?
What's up, Duncan?
What we're going to go for is, what is Stadia? What do you think? Do you think we'll go for a big showcase on what is Stadia?
I think we should. Yeah. Just to remind people in the chat that weren't here at the very outset of the show, the whole concept behind Stadia Rokks was and is that it's aimed primarily at people that are relatively new to the platform, and indeed some that have heard or are starting to hear the term Google Stadia, but don't really know what it is, and they're kind of hearing maybe lots of negativity out in the world, which sadly there is, without any kind of justification. So we're hoping that we can provide some guidance with making that decision for them.
Yes, exactly. Yes, I just have my thing on mute all the time. So I'm just worried about noises and all that. So sometimes it takes me a wee second just to get back onto it. So
No
yeah,
worries, you're the professor.
I'm the professor, of course. Uh, so our Stadia is a cloud gaming service. So basically, what that means is you can play Stadia anywhere that it is supported. So for example, this means you can play it on your TV via the Chromecast. You can play it on computers, both PC, Mac, and Linux as well. So you have a lot of options out there where to play Stadia. But one of the big features of Stadia is you can play it on Android devices. There is no support for Stadia at this moment in time for iPhones, but you can play it on Android. And what you can do, you can play it on your device with just your fingers as with touch controls, or you can play it on without connecting up your controller through Bluetooth to it. Stadia is a gaming platform, so if you buy your game on Stadia, you can play it anywhere where you want.
So it literally, as long, and I just want to qualify that at this moment in time, can I play it on my phone if I'm not attached to Wi-Fi?
That's a good question, Rokk. Not at this moment in time.
Okay.
You have to have it connected to Wi-Fi at this moment. However, that looks like it's going to change with when 5G becomes much more established, and I think they've already sort of talked about that. So you do need Wi-Fi at the moment to play it on it. So that's a really good point there.
And that isn't because it couldn't function on mobile network. It's just my belief is that they want you to have the best gaming experience. And of course, at this moment in time, certain parts of the world, mobile connections can be a little bit flaky. So it's probably going to give you an unsatisfying experience. Is that what you would think their aim is?
Exactly. It's they're just worried about the mobile coverage, and they are just wanting people to have the best experience. There is another cloud gaming service out there called GeForce Now. What makes Stadia different from GeForce Now is on Stadia, it is completely separate. It is its own platform. You have to rebuy the games if you've already bought them, or you just buy them on there. For GeForce Now, you reuse your Steam games or Uplay Plus games. However, they don't actually get. You're just going to be playing them. For Stadia, you will be able to get extra features on top of some of the games, which won't be available on other platforms.
And in terms of cloud gaming, which my understanding means that the game itself is, rather than you install it on your local hardware, so your local console or PC or whatever your gaming choice platform of choice is, instead of you installing it, it's installed somewhere up in the internet, and you literally play that game on that instance of the internet, and you see what you're playing on your screen. So it takes away the need to have the hardware locally, and means that all of that, the installation, the maintenance, the ownership of the hardware and everything, that's somebody else's problem. Yeah.
Exactly. It's basically anything to do with the gaming side is all Google's responsibility. If there's a game needs patched, you don't have to worry about being patched because Stadia are doing that. If the game has, or they want to upgrade their hardware to compete with the next generation of consoles, they do the upgrade, and you do not have to buy any new consoles or anything like that. So going forward, you do not have when you're on PC, you're on consoles, every couple of years you have to have buy new console hardware or new PC parts. With Stadia, you won't. All the heavy lifting is done by Stadia. What you're doing is you're just playing the games, you're streaming the games down.
So let me just qualify that, because that's a really interesting point. So what you're saying is, Duncan, at the moment, I'm hearing a lot about the next generation of console. We've got PlayStation 5 coming out towards the end of the year. I think they've now updated their website to say holiday 2020, which I believe is kind of Thanksgiving onwards in America, isn't it? And the Xbox Series X, which is the next generation of the Xbox, and that's slated for kind of late-ish November. So everyone's excited about the new hardware and what it will allow them to do with what they're calling next generation games, better graphics, faster load time, some new features that we've not seen before. And what you're saying is that one of the advantages of cloud gaming is that we've always got the latest generation of hardware, because that's being updated to keep up with whatever the new games are that become available. So in a way, we've got a console forever, an infinite console.
Exactly, that's exactly what it is. Just to qualify that does not mean that Stadia is 100% going to get upgraded when these new consoles come out. We are not saying that's going to happen at that time, but when there is an update to Stadia on the hardware specs, we do not need to do anything. It's automatic. It just does it itself. So when the next Xbox come out, Stadia may decide we're going to up our specs. We don't have to worry.
Okay.
We just play away, and we may notice a difference in some of the games.
But the key thing is that technically that is possible. And certainly in order for Stadia to keep up with the coming generation of games, it will need to provide that. And us as users, us as in the Stadia community, as players, don't have to worry about the hardware anymore. So all we worry about is the game available that I'd like to play, and how much is it going to cost? Is it free if I sign up to Stadia Pro? Essentially, those are kind of the most troublesome things that we need to consider, aren't they?
Exactly. Well, that's all we worry about now is when's the games coming, how much are they going to be. Over the last couple of weeks in the wider gaming community, you've seen the thing about Call of Duty Warzone, and that had an absolutely massive patch of about, was it 30 gig patch. If that game was on Stadia, we would be playing it like that. We would not have to worry about the patches, because that is taken care by Stadia. So that is a massive positive for Stadia going forward. When all these new games come on board and then there's these massive updates, we're going to be jumping in straight away, not having to worry, because it's already done for us.
So effectively, a new game is brought to Stadia. We don't have to install it. We simply pay the money or claim it if it's a free one under the Pro subscription, and hit the play button, and it instantly fires up. We still have some loading because the game itself has to fire up and so on and so forth, but that's relatively quick on Stadia compared to current generation consoles anyway. And if there's a patch at any point, if there's an update to the game at any point, that's not our concern, and we don't even know most of the time that it's happened, because it's happened behind the scenes.
Exactly. That's a really good couple of really good points there, Rokk. The first one is, yes, you are streaming the game. However, streaming a game does not mean there's not local hardware. There's not hardware involved in the data center. It's basically, you've got, instead of your console being in front of you, it is in the data center. So there still will be the loading that way. It is a lot faster because it's got the SSDs, which PlayStation 5 and the Xbox are going to. So at this moment in time, we are semi-playing on what you could say is the next generation of consoles because of the loading time, because that's one of the big selling points to it. And the other point,
an SSD is solid state drive, which is essentially a hard drive with a chip in it, rather than the little disc that rotates around with a magnet that has loads of moving parts and takes a while to get there. So it's the fastest current way that we can get information from the disc into our machines.
Yep, exactly. And it is such a big difference. It's so noticeable in some games that if you're playing old versions of the game, or not old version, on different consoles, the if you put them side by side, the difference is staggering. A couple of the amazing people in our community have actually done a number of these videos, which you can actually check on YouTube to show you the difference. And we're talking massive differences. Instead of going down for a cup, in some games you can go down, make yourself a cup of tea, and some of the games are still loading. On Stadia, you can't nip out and have a wee quick break because they're coming up straight away.
It's right. One of the advantages of a console when you're downloading a patch or installing a game is you can still have time for a quick coffee break. And but of course, that's one of the advantages as a casual player or a person with a busy lifestyle, which, let's be honest, is most of us, is that you can cut so much time out. And I think it's fair to say, Duncan, that and you and I are what were called or are called Stadia founders. In other words, we signed up for it even before it became publicly available. And so we've known the platform since it launched. And it's fair to say, certainly for me, and I think a lot of other people, that we've got, because we have more time, essentially, because, you know, the load times, installation times, everything else. And of course, because we also are pro subscribers, you and I, which means that we get at least 2 games made available for us to claim every month. If anything, we're spending more time playing games, but probably not more time in game playing, if that makes sense, because we can just get in and play a lot faster. Which it sounds it's a bit of a hard concept to understand, isn't it? But if you start taking away all of those factors that plague a console, which, to be fair, you probably haven't even thought too much about because it's just the way it is. But once you start taking those away, you suddenly find you've got more time to play the game.
Yeah, and you don't actually realize how much time you actually save. I just want to correct you on one wee tiny part, Rokk.
Mm-hmm.
At this moment in time, we are only guaranteed 1 pro game a month.
Okay.
It's at this moment in time, we do not know how many we get a month because it's just random. But in their small print, they at the very start, which I don't think they haven't updated, we're just getting the 1. So that was something. But the amount of time you save because you don't have to patch, it just loads up because of you're playing more games and getting through more games so quickly. So that's why sometimes people are a bit impatient because of the number of games on the platform. The eager beavers are just wanting more, and we are starting to get more and more. So if you join Stadia now, the library is massive, and you've got your 18 games which you can get on Pro now to start playing, and them 18 games free. Yep. If you sign up to Stadia Pro and you're ferried, there's games for absolutely everybody there.
Martin, sorry. Excuse me, coughing. I've got a little Frenchman in my throat. Happy Cloud Gamer Martin says here, and he makes a really good point, we don't need to delete a game. Now, why that's important is because, and I found this recently, I've just bought Last of Us 2 for PlayStation 4 and pre-ordered, and of course the day of installation or download, because I only buy games online, I couldn't install because I had no space left. So I had to quickly go through and get rid of some games that I haven't played for years to make space for the Last of Us 2. Now, with cloud gaming and Stadia, you don't need to worry about that because your library is essentially infinite. It just expands to accommodate whatever games you have in them. So you never have to worry about how much space you've got, the size of downloads, all the kind of stuff that we take for granted when we think about our life with consoles and PCs. But actually, once you start to think how much more valuable that time is, makes a huge amount of sense.
Yeah, and we can go back to one of the games, what we were just talking about, Elder Scrolls Online.
Mm-hmm.
They update their game regularly. So if you've got yourself a bit burned out on Elder Scrolls Online, and they announce another expansion pack, which you've got to really infuse again, you don't have to go download it. You can just jump back to your library and go, this update, I'm playing it now. And this could be months upon months or even years. You don't have to just jump straight into it. So that is a brilliant point by Happy Cloud Gamer. any games in our library we can just jump straight into now and not have to worry about downloads. There's going to be games in the coming months that we're going to completely forget we had in our library, and they're going to have an update, and they're going to be infused and redone. It's going to get a new lease of life. Like I don't want to confuse people at the moment, but where some of the games we know they've got updates coming, like Get Packed and Ember are going to be bringing in crowd play, so people can jump into streamers' games without having to worry. So.
No. That's a mind-blowing concept, isn't it? And one of the things that I don't want to touch on them this week, because really I just wanted the basics of Stadia, but next week certainly we can do. And we may also be able to do it from the point of seeing one of those features roll out. So the key thing is that beyond what we've said, which are amazing in and of themselves, but truthfully not hugely different to most cloud gaming platforms in terms of their advantages, because it's the concept of cloud gaming brings all of these advantages anyway. But Stadia has some published features that are being rolled out virtually as we speak, which are unique to the platform, and we'll integrate it with YouTube and some other services, and we will touch on those next week because they're really interesting. But I think they just need a little bit more of a wider conversation and maybe some examples of why that would be good for people. But you're absolutely right, and that's stuff coming, and we're seeing that coming with existing games and new games that are coming to the platform. So that's excellent. So essentially, in a nutshell, some of the advantages of Stadia that you've outlined, Duncan. One is that it's actually free. It's a free console, a free PC. It's a platform for playing games, and as such, it's free. It's freely in the cloud. Now, obviously, if you bought yourself a PlayStation or a PC and you didn't own a game, you'd be sitting and staring at a blank screen, and that's no different here either. So as well as the fact that it's a free platform, which in itself is an advantage, there are also a relatively sizable library now, certainly growing all the time. And I'm not sure the amount of games, but it's certainly in the very many tens, and that's looking to increase into the hundreds in the coming months. And they are predominantly either current titles, new titles, or older titles that have been updated and refreshed for the platform. So there's a wide range of games there. They also, as well, in the main, they are either the same price as you'll see in other platforms or cheaper. And in fact, it used to be that you had to have a pro subscription to get discounts, but now discounts are also applied across the wider library as well. And am I right in saying, Duncan, if you sign up now, at least for a few weeks, you get a £10 off or $10 off voucher, which you can, whether you sign up for pro or not, which you can then put against any game of your choice as well. And that lasts, I think, until December.
Yep, that's correct. If you sign up now for Stadia Pro, you get 1 month free, you get access to them 18 games, and also you get that $10 off coupon. So
you get that even if you don't sign up for Pro, though.
Yep. You get that as well. And some people are actually taking advantage of that, and they're getting some games which are on discount at the moment. I'm not sure if this is a mistake or not. Some people are picking up like the Crew 2 Deluxe Edition or the Complete Edition, whatever. But all these editions have different names for £4 instead of £14. So there's lots of deals that are going on at the moment.
But that makes that makes it much more attractive for anyone that's coming to the platform, because the key thing is, at this moment in time, and I'm hoping it will change, you have to sign up to the Pro subscription if you're fresh and new to it, but they don't take any money. And frankly, if you cancel 1 minute later, you still get the Pro subscription for the following month with the access to all the free games that are in the current rotation and anything that comes online whilst you've got that subscription. So when it gets to the end of your month, you won't have any money taken out of your account. The Pro will stop, and then you can use your £10 or your $10 voucher and buy a game. But it's worth certainly looking at Pro, and I think it's good that Google at least give you the option to see the advantage of having that feature, even if ultimately, for whatever reason, it's not for you and you'd rather just buy games as and when you need them. So you get your account, you get instantly access. Now, am I right in saying if once I've signed up to Stadia, if I wanted to play it on my television currently, I'd have to also buy some additional hardware?
That is correct, and that has just been given a price cut as well. So in order to play on your TVs, you need a Chromecast Ultra and you need a Stadia controller. If you've already got a Chromecast Ultra, you still need a Stadia controller. The Stadia controller by itself is £60 at present, or the whole pack is £90. It has now had a price cut. So I would advise, if you're wanting to buy or play on the TV, even if you've got a Stadia, a Chromecast Ultra, I would still go for the full pack, because that means you can put it on a couple of TVs, so you can have it in your bedroom, in the front room, or whatever, and you can just bounce between the two if needed.
That's brilliant. But most importantly, you don't need to have those if you want to play Stadia, because you can still play on a computer and you can still play on any Android phone whatsoever, and hopefully in the not too distant future as well on any Apple device. But currently now on Wi-Fi, any Android and any computer where either you need a Chrome browser, or if you have a Windows PC, you need Microsoft Edge, which has the same base as Chrome, and that works. Now on those, I'm right in saying, I think, Duncan, that you can still play with a controller. You can actually wire up or use wirelessly your PlayStation, Xbox, a Steam controller, a Shield controller, and essentially any modern controller you can still use with any of your Stadia games, but only if you're playing on a computer or on a mobile phone. Is that correct?
That is 100% correct. I don't want to confuse people, but I think it's easier just to talk about that. There is other ways to do it, but it's a bit more complicated. So we'll just keep it nice and simple. The best, simple and easiest way to play on your TV is through the Premier Edition, it is called. That just sets you all up. For playing on PC and mobile phone, you just hook up your existing controllers. Yeah. PC, Mac, and Linux, or we'll just call it PC. We're including all three. All you need is your Chrome browser or Chrome-based browser, like you've said with Edge. The additional thing for PC users is you can use your mouse and keyboard as well. So you don't even, if you're playing there, some games are actually better using your mouse and keyboard. For the people over here in the UK, Football Manager is available on Stadia. So you can play Football Manager on your Chrome browser, and away you go.
That's excellent. And the other thing that it's worth bearing in mind is that all the games that you would ordinarily have to play on a specific platform are completely accessible. So as you rightly just said, Football Manager on your browser and so on and so forth. And the point that I wanted to make was that you absolutely do not need a top-end gaming PC or a mobile phone that has all the latest bells and whistles, because as long as you can access YouTube and play YouTube videos on any of those devices, you're good to go with Stadia, because it's essentially a similar technology.
Exactly, and because the spec is that low, which is required, you're seeing people, some of the really creative people out there are putting Stadia in weird places. People have had played Stadia on their fridge. People have played.
That's cool.
Yeah, people have played Stadia through a Raspberry Pi. People have played it through the Google Home. There is loads and loads of ways you can actually play Stadia, but to reiterate, you do not need a top-end PC. So, just as you said, if it plays YouTube, 9 times out of 10, if not higher, it is going to be able to play Stadia.
But it's also fair to say that what is important and does need to be good is, of course, your broadband connection. There's no way of getting over that. It's a little bit like saying, you can't play on a console if you don't plug it into the electric. Equally, you can't play cloud gaming in any flavor unless you've got a half decent broadband connection. And the reason for that is quite simply that every single second of the game, that is a great big graphic that has to be pushed down to your viewing platform. So it has to be able to handle it relatively fast. Now, I know that Google said at the outset that you would be okay with fairly modest connection, but I think it's fair to say that most people have found that, somewhere up around the 20-30 megs and up is probably what you need. And the other factor that makes a huge difference to how you experience cloud gaming and Stadia is your own Wi-Fi setup. So if you don't have a particularly good Wi-Fi setup at home, you might, for example, want to play Stadia in a back bedroom, but your router is down in the lounge, in the corner of the lounge, and there's walls and furniture and so on between you, you're probably not going to have a great experience. Now, that obviously is not Google Stadia's fault. You have to have a certain level of responsibility for that. But with a little bit of perseverance and tweaking, and as long as your base broadband is half decent, then you should be able to find a way to get that to work.
Yes, I was just trying to find it there. The minimum requirements officially is 10 meg per second.
Yeah.
However, the requirements I think are actually lower than that, but I think they're giving themselves a slightly lower or slightly higher ones just to give themselves some. But as you said, the best way to play is through a cable directly into your router.
Yes.
And if your Wi-Fi is a bit ropey, that will hinder performance. It's sort of common sense. If you're struggling to stream YouTube videos with your PC where it is, and it has to buffer, it's not going to work too well for Stadia.
No. And what we'll do, we're running out of time today, sadly, but what we will do in future episodes, Duncan, is we'll look at ways that people can set Stadia up at home, think about their Wi-Fi and other settings to get the optimum performance. So that will definitely be something we'll do. What we will do, guys, in the future, we've taken a little bit longer today because I thought it was important for us to try and get some of the concept of Stadia out. But in future episodes, we will have game reviews. And again, if you remember the original Stadia Rokks, those reviews had 5 factors that what we decided whether a game was good for casual gamers or people with busy lifestyles, because that was the important thing. We don't judge a game on how good it is, how pretty it looks, whether it's moving a genre, whether it's pushing boundaries. There's plenty of other people that do that. What we do is we look at games from the perspective of people like us, people that have precious time to play games. Can they get into the game quickly? Does it take a while to understand how to use the game? Is it good value for what it's being charged for? Those kinds of questions that, basically, if you're a casual gamer or a busy lifestyle individual, you want to know. So we're going to review and revisit those from next week. And we'll also introduce a feature where Duncan will give pro tips, and obviously we'll look at that point and how the best way to install Stadia, get the best from your connection in Wi-Fi and so on and so forth. So that's all to look forward to next week. Duncan, I think we'll call it a day at this point because I think we've covered some great ground and it's good for our pilot episode. I know you've written copious notes for all of our other features, but it is Sunday morning and and let's not forget, very especially, it's Father's Day as well. So happy Father's Day to us too, and obviously everybody that's watching as well today, everyone that's in the chat, and thank you. I hope you all have a lovely day with your families and they treat you and spoil you rotten, as I know mine are about to do. So we'll call it a day, I think. Duncan, was there anything that you wanted to promote or push or, just whatever? Say goodbye.
Say goodbye. Again, you can check if you're looking for a bit more news about Stadia going forward and you want more daily news nearly. Check out stadiasource.com because the website's updated basically daily and multiple times a day and a lot of the days because there's just so much news now coming out. So if you want to really get into things, there is that's the site to check out.
And I just want to put a bit more bones on that. So we are affiliated with Stadia Source. I'm a Patreon of Stadia Source. I think they're a valuable resource in the community. For me, that was an easy decision to make because, you know, all of us as content creators, we lean heavily on Stadia Source. Duncan is one of the key contributors for Stadia Source, hence why he and I co-host this show, because there's very few people in the community that know as much about this platform and the games in the platform as Duncan does. So I want to just put a big thank you out there to Dan, who is the main man at Stadia Source, for letting me look after Duncan today for him. And please, folks, do go along and visit Stadia Source. I'd also urge you actually to join. There's an option to log in, sign up. Now, when you log in, there's a ton of features. I'm always hugely impressed with the site. You can make friends, you can join friends, you can show what games you've got, you can see what other games people are playing, you can look for games, look for people to play with you. A ton of stuff. It's really good. So get over there, stadiasource.com, when you've got a spare few minutes later today, and do that one. Twitter for you, Duncan, is at one to escape. And that's where, again, follow Duncan if you're at all interested in breaking news and what's coming up on maybe a little bit more advanced than most of us. Duncan's your man. On the other hand, if you're not interested in breaking news and what's going on, follow me. And you can find me, believe it or not, at Stadia Rokks on Twitter. And also I've got a website which you're more than welcome to visit, which is, I'll pop this up here now. There we go, stadiarokks.uk. You'll find more information about other shows in the Rokk network at my website. So on a Wednesday, there's Rokk Around the Clock. On a Friday night, we have a raucous 3-hour session with, it's kind of Top Gear for gaming, really, men behaving badly, called Stars, Rock Stars at Night. And look at that, we've got a reversal from Duncan's camera. I think his meter just expired. That's a good shout to get the hell out. Chat, thank you very much for joining me today, for joining me and Duncan, I'd like to say. It was our pilot episode. As you know, we're going to be aiming this to be live every Sunday morning at 10 o'clock. Some of you I know have church, others have breakfasts and things. We thought it was a great time. It doesn't step on anybody else's toes. Please do join us again next week. If you've enjoyed the show, like and subscribe. Tell other people. If you've got people that you're talking to that have said, well, what is Stadia? I'm not even, if you're fed up with trying to convince them what it is, point them in our direction, because we're trying to give an objective view for them, and hopefully they'll join us in our lovely community. So have a great weekend, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day. Happy Father's Day to all of you that means anything to. And to those of you just waking up now, it's been an amazing day. We've kept your seat warm. Take care, and we'll both see you next Sunday. Say goodbye, Duncan.
Goodbye, Duncan.
Rock out.